here. And I'm excited for you guys to hear this episode. So, for today's episode, it's technically a Twisted Thursday episode coming out on Friday. But today we're going to be talking about people pleasing. Um, I know this may come as like a random topic, but I touched on it a little bit last week in my grief episode. And I thought, you know what? That is something that needs to be talked about more because I feel like it could be so beneficial if you realize you're people pleasing, because then if you notice it, you can change it and start to build better boundaries and habits for ourselves. And I think that's really important to learn about, especially with a dynamic disability, chronic pain, scoliosis. We want to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves and that we're not people pleasing because it's important for us to have boundaries. So today I thought I would just discuss what people pleasing is, and then share some personal experiences of people pleasing in my own life and how I found out what people pleasing was through therapy. And then we'll just talk about some tips and tricks that may help break the cycle of people pleasing. So I'm excited to just sit here and talk about this with you all. So let's go, Leos. Okay, so what is people pleasing? I think in my definition, this is how I would explain people pleasing. It's any time that you're putting the needs of others, the comfort of others, before your own needs or comforts or values, right? It's any time that like people pleasing doesn't feel good. It will make you feel like, think about when you've said yes, right? As simple as that. Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no and you instantly regretted saying yes to this and you knew like, probably can't say that, or darn, I really don't want to go and now I'm going to have to force myself to go. That is a form of people pleasing, right? And why that is because, let's just say for me, for instance, if I agree to do something and I'm already having a bad back day, I just know I'm going to pay for it even more later. If I push myself through something that I can't push through, but I do it anyway, it's just going to hurt me more later in the end. It's going to not help me out, not help my body out, not help my mind out because I'm going to be in pain, probably overstimulated now from going out, and just it like rolls up into a big ball of stress, I feel. So that's why we want to talk about people pleasing. So that's a small example. Another example could be maybe you have a relationship, whether it's platonic or romantic. People pleasing can be found in any relationships. But you kind of want to think about, do you have anyone in your life that you feel like every time that you're walking on eggshells, that you feel like you have things to say, but you keep it suppressed because you're trying to not have an argument or things like that? Those are all telltale signs of people pleasing. And if you don't know, you don't know. Like, I had no idea that was people pleasing. I just felt like this, I feel like we always feel it. We carry this type of stuff in our tummy. Personally for me, it just always felt like, I feel like it's just betraying ourselves or dishonoring ourselves. And I don't say that lightly, but I think that's truly what it comes down to, is we get further and further away from ourselves the more we people please and the more we put someone else's needs, values, comforts above our own. Because then we don't really look inward, right? If we're not trying to appease ourselves and hold ourselves to our own values and our own comforts and our own needs, and we're doing it for someone else, we get further away from who we are, what we want. And then it's kind of really hard to get back to that and figure out, like, what do I want? Right? Once you kind of realize that you're people pleasing. And that's kind of been my journey with learning what this is and just trying to rewire myself, rewrite the story of people pleasing, get it out of my life, get it out of my head. Like, no more people pleasing. That is my goal. So, a little backstory here on how I found out that I was people pleasing. So, I think back in 2024, I remember I was just like, it's like early 2024. I think maybe actually just the end of December of 2023. Yes. In December 2023, I went to go find a gym. I had really missed working out with a barbell. I still really do. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to be consistent with the gym still. Because if you've been on this journey with me, you all know I'm desperately in need of a routine for working out. And I was like on that journey, still on that journey. And I went to a gym, and instead of just checking the gym out and just joining the gym at like a great rate, I got sucked into talking with a personal trainer that day. And I ended up signing up for personal training that I couldn't afford. Okay. That myself and my husband definitely couldn't afford. And this shout out to my husband. I love you, babe. Because he wasn't there at the time, but I just couldn't say no. Like, I was sitting at the table with a personal trainer, and knew in my head, I'm like, this sounds great, but like, I really can't do this. Like, I just need to get up. I need to leave. I was just getting so anxious. I was just feeling it all in my tummy, and it was just like all the nerves, like a knot in my stomach. And I just couldn't say no. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Like, I mean, I do now because I'm working through like what led to this huge ass people pleasing moment, because it had to have started somewhere, right? But this was like the main event that, so yeah, I signed up for personal training at a rate that I absolutely couldn't afford, got us into debt, and don't worry, it's paid off now. But yeah, I got us into debt, and I laugh about it now, but it's pretty fucking terrible. And I just felt like absolute shit. But when I then went to therapy, and like this came up, and the therapist was like, sounds like a little people pleasing to me. And I was like, ooh, what's that? And that's when I learned about people pleasing in early 2024. So yes, if you don't realize you're people pleasing, if it's something that you're doing and maybe you're not realizing you're doing, definitely assess if you are, because it can, like I found out, trickle into bigger people pleasings, and it can affect us financially. It can affect us in our relationships. It can affect anything if it goes unchecked. And without it being unchecked, it's just not a great thing to do. Like, I can honestly say, the more I learn about it and my journey with it, and being able to point things out, from like my younger self, is just like, wow, this started. So that's why I want to talk about it today. I just think it's really, really important to know if we're people pleasing. So yeah, I got us into debt. That was fun. But through being able to name what what people pleasing is, now that we can name it, we can change it. That is the goal of what therapy is, essentially. It's just like understanding how I ended up here, what led to that. Like, we can't change anything. The best we can do is learn. And we definitely can't be shaming ourselves for things we didn't know in the past. So that's not what this is about. It's just like naming some things. We can see where it shows up in our life and see how we can get back to ourselves and be more true to ourselves and stop saying yes when we really want to say no. So that's a little example on how I found out about people pleasing, that I was people pleasing. And I think I think it's just so, so important. Another reason why is, I know I touched on this a bit earlier, but if we're a person who does identify as disabled, like myself, I know I have a dynamic disability. Like, just depending on The day that I wake up can be better than the last day or worse than the last day. Some days I can do more, some days I can do less. So it's dynamic in how it presents itself to me. And just being in that space, it's so important to make sure we're not people pleasing, because if we're people pleasing, another thing that mostly comes up with people pleasing is that we have a hard time creating boundaries. And boundaries are, I love this B word, okay? It's my new favorite word with therapy, because once you learn about boundaries, you're just like, what? This is a beautiful thing. And we want to be able to create our boundaries because it's how we protect ourselves. It's how we care for ourselves. It's how we honor ourselves and make sure that we're doing things that align with our values and what we want, right? Whenever we're people pleasing, we're doing the opposite. People pleasing is never going to give us anything. People pleasing is always going to take, right? So with having a chronic illness, a chronic a disability, chronic pain, being in that space, it's even more important to have these boundaries and set these boundaries and to be able to look inward and to come back to our body, to listen to it and see what we need. And once we put a name on people pleasing and what we want to change about that, we're able to make a more fuller, fuller life for ourselves. Like, at least that's what I've experienced. And if I want that for everyone else. So a few ways that this could show up, maybe in your relationships, plans, right? Just think of any time where you've pushed yourself past your threshold of just being, practically. Like, I remember, like, something I've been trying to do lately is, I love my family. They now live like so close to me. Besides my broski and his little ones, they're still up north. But it's really nice to have my family around, right? But if I go there every weekend, I'm gonna be tired. And like I found myself going a lot, and I was like, you know what? It's amazing that they're here, but I physically and emotionally can't go every weekend. I need to like space this out more, because there are some weekends where, if you have chronic pain or chronic anything or disability, you're not always gonna want to be in the mood to leave your house. And I think like that's okay. It's okay to not want to leave your house if you don't want to. And obviously my family was so understanding about this, but I personally just like, just like they're finally here. And like, like I want to go every weekend, but calm down, like slow down, girl. You can go just, maybe every other weekend or one day of the weekend instead of both. Like, because it doesn't always have to be someone making us feel a certain way for us to people please. That's what I'm trying to get across. Like, yes, there are times, and I'll share an example. There are times where like people pleasing comes into play for protection, but a lot of times little people pleasing things come into play because just in the back of our mind, we think we have to do something. And that's the voice I want you to try and point out to yourself if you have this, if it's something that's coming up. And if it is, no shame here. Just try and acknowledge it and see, okay, where does this come out? Where do I do these things? And where do I want to change this? Because that's the beauty of learning about it. We're able to change. We're always allowed to change. It's never too late to change, and just take better care of ourselves and respect ourselves more and honor ourselves more. So, yeah, and it can come from just the back of our mind, other than a person, right? And to go a little bit deeper into people pleasing, to share a bit, people pleasing is also known as a trauma response. So when it's known as a trauma response, it will be called fawning. This is pretty much when we appease something, someone, to keep us safe. Maybe we don't want to have an argument. Maybe we're in a relationship where we're verbally abused and we know, like, if we say something, it's just going to start a whole bunch of shit and we're not in the mood for that shit, right? And I personally have been in a toxic, terrible, narcissistic relationship in the past, from 21 to 22 years old. And what I noticed was, an outside looking in now, because, at 21 years old, this was my first relationship. And most of those for us, we don't really know toxic from not toxic things. And for most of us, or at least for me, speaking for myself, I feel like a lot of these relationships start off normal and then the person like pulls off the mask and then it's just too late. We're kind of in it and you just have to like work to get out of it. And thankfully got out of that shit. Woo! But not without some fucking life lessons to learn years later about people pleasing. But that's kind of where I ended up. I think like this was my first like relationship and it definitely brought out the people pleaser in me. A few examples that I can touch on here is there were times where, I mean, multiple times, like all the time, eventually, just because it became such, oh, ew. But whatever. Like I overthought my outfits, or I wouldn't wear heels, I wouldn't say certain things. I wouldn't always hang out with my friends. Like that is people pleasing in its like fawning, because instead of doing what I wanted and honoring myself and staying true to myself, staying true to my values of friendship, or staying true to my style and like what I enjoyed, what made me feel empowered, I let someone else dictate that just so I could, not just so I could, but so I didn't have to deal with the verbal abuse that I knew would come. And this can be like a different episode where we can talk about relationships and stuff. But for this specific episode on people pleasing and fawning, I just really wanted to showcase the differences of where these things can appear and how it can be as simple as, going out when you're not in the mood to go out, as much as like losing yourself to appease someone else in life to, essentially avoid verbal abuse, because that's where it can lead us. And then that situation, right? If people pleasing goes unchecked and it started off small, probably somewhere as a kid, right? And then that relationship happened. And then all these years later, not being able to say no to a fucking gym membership or personal trainer, I have to believe it's all connected. And if it goes unchecked, the bigger it can snowball and the more ways it will affect us. So that's why I want to talk about people pleasing and why we have been talking about people pleasing today, because I feel like these Thursdays and what I want to do is I want to have conversations around things that I know I've been through that are really hard. And I want to have these conversations more so we can talk about things that can help us thrive in life and not just survive. Because for a lot of us, I know life just keeps going. We have our coping mechanisms and maybe we don't always check in with ourselves and look inward and see the whys or the hows or all that stuff. And I feel like these Thursday sessions with you guys can just be that, have these conversations and just understand things more, call things out so we can assess them, see if they're showing up in our own lives and call them out and change them for the better. So that's the point of this, these Twisted Thursdays. And I'm just really excited to continue them because we're going to talk about so many things this season. But a few things that may be able to help, because now I shared my examples, I shared how you may able to be finding them in your own life. So just assessing, and then it becomes like, okay, I know what it is now. I know where it's showing up. What the fuck do I do? Right? So this is the hard part. And I promise you, it doesn't get fixed overnight. It's not something, it's definitely a journey. It is a work in progress through therapy, through self-reflection, through journaling, through looking back and trying to find patterns. It's a bunch of stuff, right? But the things that are helpful that we can try is, let's say if someone asks you if you want to go out, as simple as that. Let's start small. Have a script written down. Just have something that you know in the back of your head. This is what I say when I'm in this position, because that's something that's helping me. You just have planned sentences. So if someone asks you to hang out and you're not sure next time, this is what I want you to do. And if you have to quite literally physically do it, do it. But if not, not. But pause. Take a second and pause. I think a lot of us are automatically just like, I know myself, I want to be automatic. I want to just people please. And then along with this, something we'll touch on later on the season is like ADHD and masking. Okay. So take a pause. Take a pause when someone asks you this. If you need to, take your hand, put it on your chest, remind yourself to pause, and then say a few things you can say is, can I get back to you? Can I let you know tomorrow? That doesn't work for me. Right? And no is a full sentence. Okay. I need to remind myself that. But no. Can I let you know tomorrow? Just having little sentences that can help us be prepared for moments that we know where we struggle, where we know people pleasing comes up. So I know like those sound silly, but they've been very helpful for me. And then something I want to address here is also the difference between people pleasing and kindness. The biggest difference I want to explain here on how maybe you may be able to figure it out and see what it is people pleasing kind of just, like I said earlier, it kind of leaves us with nothing. It doesn't feel good. Like notice that in your gut, right? Between people pleasing and kindness. People pleasing will just feel icky. Like I know that's how I feel when I do it. And I'm like, oh, like why did I do that? Right. Or just like the dread or the exhaustion, the tiredness. Where when we're just kind to people and we're doing something for the ones that we love, and it's if it's in that same like scope of our values and we're not drifting away from any of that and it's genuinely something that we want to do, our gut will feel relaxed, we'll feel happy that this is happening. So I think that's a good way to be able to tell is, again, just coming back to the body, looking inward and seeing how you're feeling. Something, I feel like I've said it, I don't know if I've said it a lot, but it's something that I'm really, truly just leaning into now is learning what my body is telling me. Somatics has slowly really started to help with that. And along with therapy, like just reiterating, where does that show up? Because that's so important. And I feel like it takes a while to take it seriously. At least for me, it did. I'm like, what do you mean, where does it show up? Like it shows up everywhere, fucking angry, right? But no, it's really is just like taking a breath and seeing, okay, where does this show up? How does my body feel? How am I reacting to this moment? And if it's a moment that's making you feel good and happy that you're helping someone, you're most likely not people pleasing. But if it is a moment where you're just like, oh my God, why did I do that? Like, oh, I can't stand myself. Why do I do this to myself? I'm sharing like what will go through my head right now. It's most likely people pleasing. So I think that's the best way to be able to tell. Like I said, people pleasing never gives, it never makes us feel good. We're just being kind and helping the ones we love and helping someone in need. It feels good. It feels, if it's aligned with your values, it feels good. That's the biggest difference. And another one that's really good, that's just like something we can say to ourselves just as an affirmation is, I'm practicing being honest instead of automatic. That's one that's been super helpful. So, yeah. But that pretty much wraps up our people pleasing. Kind of moves us into updates. So I know I mentioned it's now April 3rd. The website is supposed to be out by April 1st. It's not out just yet, so I am pushing that date back. We're going to go for my birthday week. My birthday is April 18th, so we're going to try and get my website up by that week. So I'd say hopefully by April, yeah, let's go with April, that week, like the week of April 13th through 19th. It should be up. I will keep you updated. I will post to let you to make you all aware that it's finally up. And then I also just wanted to talk about, tease an exciting episode that will be coming to us soon on a Twisted Thursday. I know if you've been listening to the podcast and you've listened to the December episode, I did update you all and let you know that my mom, her cancer did come back. Her triple negative breast cancer is back. It's metastatic. And that's a journey that we've been on. And she's starting chemotherapy next week. And well, she's been on chemo. We're starting a new treatment next week. And she is going to come back on the podcast. So I'm really excited for this episode. So look out for it. I'll be announcing it. It will be a really special episode. I'm excited to sit down with her, to talk to her. And for anyone who may have a loved one in their life who has cancer, this just may be a nice episode to tune into. So I just wanted to shout it out because I'm super excited to have my mom on here again. If you didn't watch the old episode, you guys can go watch that on my YouTube. It's under the Twisted Wanderer podcast because that's what it was called prior to me renaming this. And that was just like a really cute episode. But this episode, of course, will be different because at the time of that filming, she was in remission. So just more raw, real conversations. And I'm just honored that she wants to come on here and share her story and talk more about it. I think it would be really helpful for people who can relate to this situation. So yeah. I'm so sorry that you beautiful people had to wait an extra day for this podcast, but I could not get my tech to work. I could not had a lot of sound issues on the 4 other videos I recorded before this. So grateful to you all for being here, for listening, and I will see you all in the next episode. If you enjoy these episodes, if you enjoy the podcast, the guests who come on here, if you enjoy talking and hanging out with me, please, it would mean the world to me if you left a comment, even a review on the podcast, whatever you can do. I would greatly appreciate it. And it just helps make this community bigger, reach more people, and just share more twists with more people. So if you guys do that, I greatly appreciate you. But until next time, I will see you on a Sunday for Scully Sundays. Again, follow the podcast on Instagram. It is Unaligned and Unfiltered Podcast. You can follow me, the Twisted Wanderer, on Instagram. And then we also have the YouTube channel, which is the Twisted Collective, which is a little tease to what's coming. And under that channel, you can find the Unaligned and Unfiltered Podcast, along with the old episodes of the Twisted Wanderer podcast. So go check those out. But until then, you beautiful people, take care of your brain, take care of your spine, and I'll see you next time.